for staying on. You're still watching GTV Breakfast, and it's time with the Minerals Commission today. We are looking into lithium mining. Now, government having concluded negotiations with Australian company Atlantic Lithium Limited, signed an agreement with the company for the first time ever in the history of the country, a mining lease for lithium in Ghana. And the sector minister for lands and natural resources said that government has value for money with the signing of this agreement. Following the announcement of the signing of that first ever mining lease for lithium in Ghana, a number of comments have been made across traditional and social media platforms about whether or not this is the case. So the minister has been answering some of our questions. Today at the table, we will be engaging the thoughts of the CEO of the Minerals Commission on the government contract, whether we got a good deal or not. We understand that we cannot finish the entire conversation, perhaps in this sitting. So over the period of the next few weeks, perhaps even throughout the month of September, we will be interrogating this lithium agreement in a bit more detail. And Mr. Ayisi Martin Ayisi is at the table to give us some better insights into the agreement that was signed. Mr. Ayisi, thank you for making another return to the table. It's been a long, long break.
Very long time.
But you're back.
Yeah, I've been missing action for 2 months, but I'm back.
So you've been globe-trotting all over the world.
It's all work.
It's all part of the work, no problem. But in your absence, and perhaps due to your involvement in this particular deal, we got the announcement of this agreement with this Australian company, Atlantic Lithium, to mine in Ghana. With the gold story not far from our ears and our hearts, we ask ourselves, are we ready for this? Tell us how we got here and what this agreement sought to do.
Thelma, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and great to be back again. Yes, I know. Let me start by saying that people have been saying, look, we've been mining gold for over a century now. I think the first large-scale gold mine, Obuasi mine, 1897. It's about 126 years, still kicking strong. Still has several years to go. This lithium thing, or if you like, we can put it in a category. I think at a point in time, I came to discuss green minerals in this, what do you call it, studio. Yes, you are right. We have granted our first mining lease for lithium in Ghana. What it simply means is that now the company can put in place all the necessary structures and code to start, if you like, for want of a better word, extraction or mining. But we'll get there. Thelma, it's been a long journey. Originally, the license used to be for a Ghanaian. As far back as 2012. What we call a reconnaissance license. Then normally when you are given a license, you need to go to the ground and do the work. You spend money and actually do geological investigation. That costs a lot of money. Typically, as a practice all over the world, you either raise the money yourself or you get others to come in. So I think they had these Australians coming in, Atlantic Lithium, and then they came here and brought in a lot of money. In mining technology or parlance, we say to come and farm in. So they come and spend the money to do the work, and then they earn it. So they've been doing that for the past 5-6 years. And eventually, they found commercial quantities of lithium under the exploration right or prospecting. Typically, what happens is that when you find a mineral in commercial quantities, you do what we call a feasibility. Let me break it down for the ordinary person to understand. Feasibility simply means I've been able to find this quantity of mineral. It's in this grade. I can mine this number of, what do you call it, tonnage or ounces or whatever I want to call it for this number of years. And then I'll deploy this technology whether it will be underground or surface, this will be the impact, etc. You put all that together and then you submit it to the Minerals Commission. We'll do a review. And then once we agree with you, we'll make a recommendation to the minister to grant you a mining lease. So what happened was this. We discovered that we cannot go the same route the way we've treated gold and the other minerals. And that we need to treat the green minerals. It's important I set the scene properly. We need to treat these critical minerals or these green minerals, which includes manganese, cobalt, lithium, and coal. We have some here. I've discussed that at length. Graphite, which exploration is still going. We should treat them differently. I mean, we look at issues like state participation, enhanced government stake, and all those things. So when the report came, I think our advice to government was that what we are seeing is something we should treat differently from the way we've handled gold. So we started negotiations with the company, and that is how it has ended. I've read a lot of commentaries and then comments on what do you call it, the agreement we have reached. It's sad. My quick reaction is that I don't think people have really read the lease yet. They've not read the agreement. I don't think they've also read the reports. So we'll talk about all that. So yes, we have a mining lease now for 15 years. Reason the company said what they have, they can mine for about 12 years, but you also have to make room for reclamation. When they finish, they need to reclaim. So we thought that reasonably government should grant them 15 years. So they have a 15-year lease to mine lithium. That is just the beginning. After 6 years of having spent $50 million on exploration.
So what happened to the Ghanaian company that started with the recognizance license?
The company had a license and then brought in other partners, these Australians. Okay. So once they spend the money, they earn it. So you keep being diluted up to a point where, equivalent to the amount of money they spend. So the Ghanaian is still there. He still has an interest. Okay. That is it.
But the license has been awarded to...
The license has been awarded to the company Lithium that holds a prospecting license. Atlantic Lithium is a parent company listed in Australia. So the subsidiary company is called Barari. Yes.
And they are the ones who will be doing this mining.
Yes, they're the ones that will be...
It's the terms of the agreement that a lot of people are interested in. You say we don't want to go the way we've handled our gold resources. What's different in this agreement?
Yes, we'll come to the terms, but Tema, let me explain this carefully. I think when the minister announced that the lease has been granted, we saw some parliamentarians coming out saying that no, the lease has not been brought to Parliament. So there are other processes or approvals. I think the minister issued a statement on Monday. There are certain processes or approvals that the company needs to go through before, if you like, for want of a better word, proper mining can start. So to start with, they have a mining lease. They need to go through 2 other processes. So work is not starting now. The next phase is for them to go through the environmental process. So that they will deal with EPA. They'll go to public hearing, discuss all the impacts. They have to go through that. It will take some time. And then they will give them an environmental permit if EPA is okay. Once they finish that, they will have to come back to the Minerals Commission and get an operating permit. And then remember that there's also a provision in the Constitution of Ghana which says that anybody who is given a mining lease or any mineral right to extract a mineral, you need to take it to Parliament for ratification. So very soon the minister will take the lease to Parliament for ratification. So it has to go to Parliament for ratification. They have to obtain an EPA permit, and then they have to come back to Minerals Commission for an operating permit. So by and large, there are a few processes, requirements, authorization, approval that are still required. I'm sure between now and December that will be sorted out.
Is it standard practice for the license to be issued before these processes are ticked off?
Yes. I don't know. What are you taking to Parliament? It says anybody who is given any authorization or once government enters into any transaction to extract a mineral, it needs to go to Parliament. You can't take a prospecting license to Parliament. So it is a lease that you take to Parliament. So it has to go to Parliament for ratification. That has to be done. The minister will do that. They have to go to environmental permitting process with the Environmental Protection Council Agency. They will do that. And then when they finish all this, they have to come back to the Minerals Commission for the Chief Inspector of Mines to issue them an operating permit. So they still have quite a few, what they call regulatory authorizations or approval to get. Ratification, EPA permit, operating permit. This have to be done.
So you're saying that the fact that it's been announced that the agreement has been signed does not necessarily mean mining is starting immediately.
So
there's still some processes to go
through. Tema, let me underscore that properly. The grant of the lease by the minister is not all the way clear that go and start work. No. You can't go and start work with the grant of the mining lease. You still need to clear 3 hurdles. 1, the lease will have to go to Parliament for ratification. That's a constitutional requirement. The minister will do that soon. That's number 1. 2, they have to go to environmental permitting process with EPA to discuss the impacts of the potential mining that will take place on the environment. They will have to do that. And then once they are issued with an EPA permit, they will have to come back to Minerals Commission for us to give them what we will call an operating permit, that now you can go and operate. So until the lease is ratified, until they are issued with an environmental permit by EPA, and until they are issued with an operating permit, they cannot start any work. The grant of the lease is just the beginning.
And you're saying that this could take us into perhaps
it could take us
by the end of the year.
It could take us between now and end of the year, and maybe early next year.
Okay.
Because the EPA process is quite rigorous. You have to go to public hearing. You need to publish these things. People may raise comments, etc. That is it. Parliament is just back from recess, so they will have to still take it to Parliament. So maybe between now and end of the year, maybe up to early next year, they will have to complete all these processes. These are regulatory requirements under the law before any construction development of the mine proper can start.
So at this time, there is no construction, there's no mining going on. There's just the approvals and the requirements, other permits and stuff that are being sought to make sure that you are ready to go.
So at this stage, they can't do any construction of the mine. They can't start any development. What they can be doing now is to continue to do exploration with a view to identifying more reserves and extending life of mine, which is normal. So they are still there. They have their campsite. They are still doing further exploration. Okay, but construction development, no. Until the lease is ratified, until they have obtained EPA permit, and then they've come back to Minerals Commission to be issued an operating permit. We even have to give them construction permit before they can go and start the construction and development of the mine. That has not started.
Is there a proposal for where exactly the mine will be sited?
Yes, that is in an area called Ewoya in the Cantonment municipality. That is in Western region. Critically, about 8 communities will be impacted, but with time, it may, touch other communities too. So that is it. So it's in the Cantonment municipality. I think that's where you have South Pond also. That's a municipal capital. That is it.
Western region?
No, Central region.
Central region.
Central region.
So lithium mining in Central region is about to start.
It's about to start. Subject to obtaining all these approvals, authorization, or rights which have
and the
mentioned.
Parliamentary ratification.
Yes, the parliamentary ratification is number 1.
So I'm asking this because when we remember the state of these communities in Cantonment municipality today, we want to remember what the story will be 15 years from now when the lease, once it is approved for construction to start and everything takes off, will look like. Because we have an ideal picture of what a mining town should look like. Other countries have shown us the way. In Ghana, we have not always had it right. What are the terms this time with lithium that will guarantee us the kind of results we want to see and the developments we want to see in this space?
Thelma, thank you very much. And I think that is really the crux of the matter. I will discuss that extensively. We will not be able to finish today, but I want to take my time and do that perhaps every Wednesday for the entire November. I will want to, break them into about 4 or 5 parts. I want to start with the fiscal terms first. I mean, what is it that the Republic is going to get? The money, the fiscal terms, receipts. I'll deal with that one. When I finish, I'll look at state and Ghanaian participation. Remember, the criticism is that foreigners own the mine, we've not been benefiting, they take everything away. So what is in need for Ghanaians and then the Republic, How do we participate? That has also been dealt with. And then the third one is value addition. Over the years, we've been taking many of these, minerals in a raw form out. I think you saw the headline news yesterday. Now, manganese is going to be refined locally, but I don't want to lose focus of our discussion. So I'll look at the receipts, the actual receipts or potential receipts that will come to the state. We'll look at the value addition to the mineral. We'll discuss that, and then we'll discuss state and Ghanaian participation, and then within the broader local content laws. So that is it.
Okay.
So Tema, let's start with
the physical.
Let's start with the tax issues and all those things. Tema, this is what the minister was talking about, that perhaps we have the best. Let's take one of them, royalty. Now, royalty is something that is paid to the owner of the resource, in this case, the republic. I'll give you the rate we've negotiated and compare it to other jurisdictions, because you see, as to whether you are doing well or not, you have to compare. Okay? If UK wants to see whether they are doing well or not, they compare themselves to Germany, France, and co. That's how they do it. So, royalty, the company is going to pay 10%. As we speak, the royalty rate for most minerals in Ghana is 5%. So, for lithium, it has been doubled to 10% for this particular project, 10%. And Tema, let me say that it is the highest outside Chile in the world. Chile has a royalty rate between 8 to 24%. They use a certain margin. Okay? Outside Chile, Ghana has the highest royalty rate for lithium in the world. If you take the producers of lithium in Africa, Zimbabwe has not got a royalty more than 6%. Zimbabwe has the biggest reserves in Africa and number 6 in the world. The biggest producer is Australia, that produces almost half of the world's lithium. Then Chile, China, Argentina, Brazil, Zimbabwe. So we have a royalty rate higher than Zimbabwe that has a bigger reserve than us. Our royalty rate is also bigger than that of Mali. Mali has about 6%. Mali has a particular project called Gulamina. It is three times the size of a Wea, so they don't have more than 6%. Zimbabwe has not got more than 6%. Even almighty Australia, Western Australia, which is the biggest mining hub in the world, their royalty rate is 5%. Okay? So I have never seen any royalty rate more than 6%, apart from Chile. Now, Chile, I would describe it as a Saudi Arabia of lithium. Close to about 40% of the world's reserves of lithium is in Chile. So they have increased their royalty rate from 8 to 24. So outside the royalty rate for Chile, Ghana's royalty rate is the highest, perhaps in the world. No country in Africa compares.
Potentially, how much are we looking at?
Well, look, they said they are going to produce about 360,000 tons a year. Let me be very conservative and make some rough mathematics. Very basic. Let's look at even 300,000 tons a year. The price has been falling now. Let's even use $2,000. $2,000, the concentrate times 300,000. That's about how much? 600 million. Calculate 10% of that. Just calculate 10% of that. Vis-a-vis if we're taking royalty. So I was quite surprised when people were saying that we didn't get a good deal. It's not true. But the first impression, when I started listening to the comments and the commenting, I realized that people have not read. Now, the lease is publicly available. I'll make it available at the website of the commission. Anybody who wants one, I'll give it out. Then I also realized that people have not even read the technical reports, okay, that are filed by the company on the website, which we also have. We'll make these things available. So that's the first thing about this agreement. That's the first great deal of this agreement. The royalty rate is 10%. It is not only the highest in Africa, but outside Chile, which has 40% of the world's reserve, nobody has this royalty rate. And I think the government deserves a praise on it. Okay. It's a good deal on royalty. That's number one. 2, we are also saying that if you look at our law, the free carried interest, I mean, in the current situation, it is 10%. Government has a 10% free carried interest in every mining project that is supposed to,
Break
produce a
down the
mineral.
free carry interest.
Free carry simply means that you are not supposed to pay for it. So government automatically is a shareholder, which is not going to pay for it. The law says 10%. This 10% thing was introduced by actually Ghana, and every African country copied it. Okay? We've been able to negotiate a free carry interest of 13%. So automatically, the republic owns a 13% share, which is not going to pay for it. Again, no country has that in Africa. No country. Mali has not got it. They have only 10%. DRC, they don't have it. Zimbabwe and Co, they don't have it.
So a 13% share of whatever is mined.
Yes, the government of Ghana has 13% shareholding. I'm not done yet. Beside the 10% royalty, we have 10%, shareholding of the property in Ghana. And all the other properties, they may convert into a mining lease. They don't only have one property. They have a couple of other mining leases.
10% royalties,
10% royalty, which will be paid to the state. Okay? Then they have 13% shareholding. Now, apart from that, there is an enhanced government participation. The Mineral Income Investment Fund, which is more or less our sovereign fund for mining, has also taken a stake in it. That's about 9%. They've taken 6% in the local entity, and then 3% in Atlantic Lithium, which is listed in Australia, and then London. So if you add MIF, which is still a state-owned property or entity, and then the free 13% shares, it brings government interest to about 19%. 19%. Okay, let me break it down. 10% royalty, we've explained that is understood. Then I'm saying that typically when a mining lease is granted, the government is entitled to 10% shares. They don't pay for it. Okay, it comes with all the rights. You make appointment to the board. When the dividends are declared, you are paid dividend, etc. For Atlantic Lithium, this particular lithium property is now 13%. So government is a 13% shareholder. On top of that, you have the Minerals Income Investment Fund, which is a state entity, more or less our sovereign fund for mining. It has taken a 9% stake in it, 6% locally, and 3% on the entity that is listed in Australia. So if you add all, that has increased the Ghanaian participation to close to about 19%. The 6% local, don't forget the 3% international, and then the 13% free carried interest. Of course, that is paid for. So that brings it to 19%. That is it. And then also, there is a 1% growth and stabilization levy. 1%. I think that was passed by government, parliament this year, 1%. And Tema, it is not, you cannot deduct it. It's not tax deductible. So if you add a 1% to the 10% royalty, effectively royalty is 11%. There's a 1% tax on top of revenue. They cannot deduct it. It's not deductible. I mean, it was passed by parliament sometime, I think April or March this year. We negotiated that. So if you add that to the 10% royalty, it effectively takes royalty to about 11%. And if you add the 9% state interest, that's about almost 20. Now, that's also something that we got. No company has that. Then the other thing that I have to talk about, for me, which I was happy, we didn't leave out the community. Okay? We didn't leave out the community. So they are supposed to pay 1% of their annual revenue, not profit. 1% of their annual revenue into a community development fund. That will be utilized for development projects in a community. We said we want the communities to look like Joburg, Perth, Toronto, and Co. Thelma, let me tell you what is different. Currently, almost all the mining companies have what they call corporate social responsibility. You can mention the Hafo Foundation for over 17 communities. You can talk about the Deacon Trust in Pesos Mining, and then that of Obuasi and Co. They all have some kind of CSR where they put aside some money every year to fund certain projects. It is not backed by any law. It is voluntary. Yet when they spend, they deduct it from their tax. Okay? Ghana is the only country in Africa that has not legislated community development, funding. Most of the countries in Africa have 1%. Anything between 0.5 to 1%. So we are saying that they should put aside 1% of revenue. If you take Newmont, they do 1% of profit. So it means that if they don't declare of profit, they don't pay. And then they said for every ounce they sell, they put aside $1.
Who's determining who mans this community development?
Well, we are going to develop a framework. Actually, the framework has been developed already by Minerals Commission. So we will have a framework that will, guide us to how the money will be utilized. So it is not something that you are just going to give to anybody anyhow.
Are the chiefs involved?
Of course, the chiefs will be involved. The chiefs will be involved. Everything in the community, the chiefs will be involved. The assemblies will be involved. The people will be involved. I'll come and discuss the framework that will govern that too. As I said, I'm here the whole of November. So let me repeat. 10% royalty, the highest in the world, outside Chile. So it's mind-boggling when people say we didn't get a good deal. You don't get it anywhere. Countries that have even bigger reserves, 3-4 times our reserves, don't have this. Number two, the stake of the state has been increased from 10 to 13%. Apart from that, the sovereign wealth fund has taken an additional 6% locally and 3% in a parent company. Then we are saying that 1% of revenue. Let's do some rough calculation. So assuming the price, it's falling. The price of lithium now is falling, the concentrate. Assuming it's 2,000, it's more than a little over 2,000, but let's use 2,000. $2,000, let's use an average production of 300,000 tons. That's about 600 million. 1% of that is $6 million. Tema, I spoke to the DC and asked him, what is the common fund for Infantima municipality? He said about 1.2 million Ghana cedis. 1.2 million Ghana cedis. And the largest share of the revenue for the assembly is a common fund. That's about more than 70-80% of the revenue. Now, if you use 2,000 and 300,000 tons, the price is more than $2,000. And then if you use 300,000, you're going to produce more than that. You're talking about more than $6 million to about 8 communities or more every year. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Okay, that's a lot of money. So that is also something that we negotiated.
I think that's
so those are the
yes.
So I'll summarize the physical terms roughly. Next week I'll discuss value addition and the local content and then the other things in the agreement. I'm saying the government has negotiated 10% royalty, by far the highest in Africa, and outside Chile that is the highest in the world. Okay. The only country I can think of that has a 10% royalty is Botswana, 10% for diamond. And then DRC, 10% for cobalt, which they control about 2/3. So that's number one. Two, every year for the life of the mine. So even if they make more discoveries and it goes beyond 12 years, every year they will set aside 1% of their revenue, not profit. Newmont is doing 1% profit and $1 for every ounce of gold they sell. This company is going to set aside 1% revenue every year. At current price, that's over $6 million for the communities, to be used by the communities. So that's number two. The state is getting 13%,
free
stake. Okay, they are not going to pay for it, so they will appoint members to the board. They will also get what they call the profits when dividends are declared. And then the Sovereign Wealth Fund for Mining, MIF, has also taken additional 6%. Remember, they also earn profits. So I want you to take note of all this. And then there's a 1% growth and stabilization levy, which is to be paid also on revenue. So effectively, royalty is about what? 11%.
Okay. So
that goes also to the Republic. So these are the fiscal terms.
So
and then
we'll
there's
talk
corporate
about
tax.
In the next session.
But let me wrap up on the fiscal terms. Tema, according to the report we have, their payback period is about 1.5 years. 1.5 years. So if the price even goes high, they could even recoup their initial investment within a year. Currently, it's about 1.5 years. It could be less. So it means that within no more than 2 years, the $185 million which they are projecting to spend to build a mine, they will recover the money. So, I mean, this is something that the government will make a lot of money from. But the real meat is in value addition. I'll discuss that next week.
Right.
And these terms are far better. And this is only one project. Just one project. This is far better than all the other projects we've been having around all these years.
There's
So
also
that
been
is good news.
some good, some commendation of the agreement, and one in particular in today's edition of the Daily Graphic from former President of Anglo Gold Ashanti, Sir Sam Jonah, commending the ministry and the partners for this agreement, and asking that the country must now be strategic to help concretize the immense benefits of the electrification boom that the emerging industry has promised. And he's also asking for further steps in Ghanaian participation in the talking about all the benefits that come with that. So the battery market set to be very highly impacted with the coming on board of lithium once construction and mining actually take place. More conversations we'll be having at this table with the Minerals Commission CEO this month of November on Ghana's first ever mining lease for lithium. And today we've broken down some of the physical terms and what the country stands to benefit in terms of taxes from this agreement. In other conversations, we'll be talking about the value addition. Today we've learned the percentages: 10% for royalties, 1% growth stabilization levy, 1% of annual revenue for a community development fund, and government's free carry interest of 13%, as well as the mineral income investment fund benefiting its own percentages of the agreement. The CEO of the Minerals Commission has sat with us, Mr. Martin Ayisi, and thank you. We'll say thank you to you again. We'll see you next week for the next stage of our discussions on this mining agreement for lithium. Mr. Ayisi,
so next week I'll discuss the mandatory list on the stock exchange, so people like you can go and buy shares. I'll discuss value addition, and I'll discuss local content and all the other things that comes with it.
Mr. Ayisi, thank you
Thank
for
you very
making
much.
time. And that's it for our time with the Minerals Commission today. Remember, you can catch this interview across our social media platforms, GTV Ghana, or you can follow Minerals Commission across their social media platforms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and everywhere. Look for Minerals Commission, and you'll catch this interview as well. And that's all time will allow us to bring you today. Mr. Ayisi, you're still signaling me.
I'm still signaling you because I want to tell the general public that the agreement and the reports are available. We'll put them on their website. They can download them, because I've realized that the analysis people are making, the commentaries that are being run, are based on what the minister said. But a lot of people have not read the full agreement and the report.
Read the fine print.
Yes, so go to our website and look for the lease and the report so that we can do a better discussion. Stop relying on the summaries of the minister. Thank you.
Minerals Commission are the handles you should look for across social media, and you can get the agreement, the actual agreement, on their sites as well. And that's it for our time. We'll be back to do